I'm never, ever without what I need. Ever. And then if I don't have it, I have Pastor David, and I have Pastor Tim, and I have my pastors, and I have my friends at my church. I can get help to get it. I'm being equipped, right? So that I can drink. Instead of people watering me, right? Then the Pastor David's teaching me how to drink. Water's in your house, Jamie, drink. You got paintings right there, drink. You got your poetry, drink. Living water's right there in the Bible, drink. You can pray, drink. You got church on Sunday, drink. When the family came in, they got up and left. But God blessed that land. That land was blessed. Abraham was sent there. Isaac sat there. And when Jacob left, he was told, come back and sit back in that land. That land is blessed. How could that land be feminized? Y'all can go through stuff, but I'm not going to go through it. Why? Because of the fact that I'm going to have exactly what I need so I can hand it out. How do I support this? Because Joseph was in Egypt. Joseph was their blessing because they didn't like his dreams, right? And who he was. Joseph was their blessing, so they sent him away. Joseph was supposed to be in that land. So when the time came for the famine, they would have had, because they had Joseph, they would have had exactly what they need, and they would have been selling food to everybody. Instead, they're going and buying food from slavery. You sent Joseph into slavery, so now you got to go to slavery and get what you need. And Joseph, think about the story. If Joseph had been there, he's a dreamer, he's a prophet. If Joseph had been there, he could have helped them. They would not have been hungry. But they sent away their blessing because it looked like a burden. Also, I'm saying be a blessing to those people that are not in the faith, right? They don't know where they're at. The Chaldeans we hear were really nasty people, but the of the Chaldeans, they worship sun, they worship anything. Pick up a rock and worship it. There's no allegiance in their worship. The problem I have with Jacob, if you say, "Oh, Joseph is the best. He's the best. That's the best," maybe in your mind, but I'm not a Josephian. I'm a Christian, right? I don't worship Joseph. I'm not Josephian. When Jacob went back to, I looked up. Jacob went back to Joseph. When Jacob went back to go, he went to meet Joseph in Egypt, right? We find a Joseph that's not newly married, but not married for 20 years. He's married. Because if we really look at it, Rachel, Joseph's mother, was full-blown Jacob, when they got together, was and Israelite. So you have Israelite and right, mating with So God said, don't be with them. They will cause you to worship their idols. Rachel left with Laban's idols underneath her skirt. So now we come across a Joseph, right, who's anointed by God. He's a prophet, but he's Israelite and and his wife is Egyptian. They mate, and they get Martians. I don't know. Ephraim and Manasseh. The wife's name was Asenath, right? We're going to talk about how the Pharaoh, right? He called himself God and he renamed Joseph. Like the name that Joseph got from God wasn't enough. He renamed Joseph and said, "Your name is now." He put a ring on Joseph's finger and changed his name. Your name is now Zaphanath. I make fun of it, but he really says Zaphaniah or Zaphaneth, Benaiah. I don't know. Whatever. Stupid. All of it. Joseph had a name. His name was Joseph Israelite. Why you gotta change his name? He was all right. In order for him to work for you, you gotta give him a ring and change his name. That's a marriage. You enter, and the thing is, Pastor Keith was like, Jimmy, you gotta understand the times. I understand that. When we get somebody a ring and change their name, spiritually something happens. That is marriage. That is covenantal marriage. You don't give my spirit a new name and change its name. Why? Because nobody knows my spirit's name. It's written on a rock in heaven. But you don't come to me and marry my spirit and give my spirit a new name and then put a ring on my spirit. You do it on me naturally. So anytime a name change happens and a ring appears naturally, then something happens in the spirit. And now we are connected, right? What about nationality are you taking on? You're already an Israelite marrying an Egyptian. Instead, you bring that Egyptian over to know who God is. The Egyptian brought you over to Pharaoh, or Pharaoh found you, right? And he changed your name. He made you full-blown Egyptian. Asenath, his wife, we don't hear anything bad about her. We don't hear about her doing anything bad, right? Because remember when Joseph first got there, he was in chains, but then he was taken to Potiphar's house. So he's taken to Potiphar's house, right? So he starts working, and Potiphar puts him in charge of stuff. So now he's running Potiphar's house. He's not just working in the house. Potiphar has wisdom. So Potiphar realized that this man has wisdom. So he put this man in charge of everything in his house. If Potiphar had kept his mouth shut, his house would have flourished, and he would have had everything he needed to take stuff and sell it during the famine. Because he would have had Joseph there. Keep your mouth shut. When Joseph said he ain't do it, he ain't do it. All he had seen from Joseph was integrity. But then you hear your wife. You hear your wife say what she said to you, right? So Potiphar, because of Potiphar, right? That's what I call it. Stephen Furtick said that. We got Potiphar and his wife, Potiphar. Potiphar starts lying to Potiphar, so Potiphar puts Joseph in prison. Joseph gets to prison, and what happens? Everything he touched is like Midas. I said, God, give me the Midas touch. Everything I touch blesses your people. I'm going to bless the household of faith. I'm going to bless the people of God. I'm going to see you in everything that I do. When I take off my shoe, right? I take off my shoe, I'm going to see you on the ship. Potiphar, because of what Potiphar said, threw Joseph into prison. Joseph is in prison and he's put in charge of jail. To be honest with you, I know in order for him to run the prison, he had to either be out of the jail for a long period of time or they had to give him keys. It's just the jail keeper put Joseph in charge. He gave Joseph keys. I know he did. Because you can't be in charge of nothing. When I was promoted and I had to run the Fortune Studio, when I was promoted and I had to run Johnny Rockets, and every job I've been at, I've been promoted. But when you get promoted, they give you a key. Promotion comes with a key. Marriage comes with a ring. It's an understanding thing. When you are promoted, you get access. Access comes with the key. I can access this. Now, it may be that I'm not supposed to be here after 7 o'clock, but I can access it if I want to. Why? Because you gave me a key. That means you trust me to access it when I'm supposed to. He got keys because he got a promotion. He's put in charge of everything. I can't see, even if I'm in a prison cell, I can't see everything around me. If I'm in a cell, you're in a cell, and that person down the hall is in a cell, we can't all see each other because we're in cells. With that being said, I have to have a key to go in and look out and make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do and monitor the chores. I have to go out and be able to see things. I'm given a key. But this man of integrity stayed in prison. I'm telling you, that man had a key. He had to. He was put in charge, and unless, stay with me, unless that the jailer was there every time he put Joseph in charge, Joseph had to have a key. That's ridiculous, because every time, if the jailer is there every time Joseph is there, right? Then there's no need to have him in charge. So the jailer left. In order for Joseph to be able to do anything, he had to have a key. But Joseph still had integrity. I don't hear anybody talking about that. Joseph had to have a key. He was in charge. You're a manager. You gotta have a key. There's no way you can manage things and make sure things run properly if you don't have a key. And I believe he used the key to open the doors, and he went back inside the cell. Because he knew he wasn't, not that he was supposed to be there, but he knew he was placed there. It's integrity. Staying in chains even when you have a key. Never. Unless God is the God of the chains. They lock me up, I'm okay with it. I don't trust anybody, but I know Pastor David. I know him. I don't know him completely, but I know him. I trust him. So I ain't staying in chains around nobody, because if I'm in chains, I can't use my hands freely. I can't grab something and hit you with it freely, right? I stand in chains around nobody. But when you say Pastor David, yeah, I'm okay being in chains. I'm okay, and not necessarily being in chains, but submitting myself. I'm okay. And becoming humble under the mighty hand of God. Trusting that when I become humble, I'm not talking to somebody that's going to tell me, seek God. They're going to lead me to the real God that loves me. Because if you humble yourself up under the mighty hand of God, I'll submit. Around Pastor David, I don't submit around anybody. But if you humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, right? I know Pastor David, that's a man of God. He eats, sleep, and breathe Jesus. And so do his wife and his kids. I'm not going to submit myself to everybody. And when the Pharaoh married Joseph and said, you do this for me. The funny thing about it, after Joseph did it, he could have gotten up and left. Because of the time of plenty, I think lasted, 7 years or 5 years. One of the two. It wasn't a long time. And all he did during the time of plenty is store food. Now we're going to get to that in a minute. After we discuss Joseph's wife. Joseph married Asenath. I think that's her name, Asenath. And she was full-blown Egyptian, right? Because her mother and her father, I assume, were full-blown Egyptian. We don't hear anything bad about what Asenath did or what she convinced him of or what she made him do. We just know that there was a change that had taken place, right? And I actually start to feel like the wig and the makeup that Joseph put on as an Egyptian stuck with him because of Asenath. It started when Pharaoh put the ring on Joseph's finger, that he renamed Joseph, so that's a new identity. And now Joseph's walking in that new identity. And I don't know, I can't say much about what's going on in his spiritual walk, except the fact that he's now wearing a wig and makeup. That just tells me that he is no longer walking in Egyptian, is no longer walking in Israelite, but he's walking in Egyptian. His wife. When I read this, I got so angry. And I said, wait, why am I getting angry? We know that everybody sins. Everybody sins. Joseph made his own plan for his wife. He married married Potiphar's daughter, Selah. I said, you got Potiphar, and Gotiphar. He married Potiphar's wife. When I looked at the origin, and I just glanced at it because I said, this is so stupid. Everybody's like, Joseph. I'm like, Jesus. Because both of them were pushed out of their land. Jesus said, a prophet is not without honor except in his own home. He did not live in Nazareth growing up when he was in ministry. As a matter of fact, he couldn't do in Nazareth what he wanted to do because they did not believe. So he left his home. But when he left his home, he did not take on the identity of other places. Joseph gets to, that's what I said, you get to that point where you just want to oppress people. And when they put you away and when they put you under, when they throw you in jail, you get upset and you want to impress them even more. Right? And I told them, they told me, seek God. I said, I know I'm close. I know she's going to tell me something soon. Never. Never told me anything. Except get out. I don't want nothing to do with you. If you see me walking down the street, cross. Walk on the other side. I remember what she said. Because I didn't seek her. I wanted God. And I was talking to somebody that would teach me how to see God and not seek God. That's that in us. That's that in her, right? Potiphar was a priest in Egypt. This is, I think, the priest of On. Priest of On, right? If I'm not mistaken. And then Potiphar, what he would sacrifice, I think it was buffaloes or bulls, some of the bulls or buffaloes. As a priest, he would sacrifice those things and take the blood and offer that to their God. He would sacrifice them and offer them to their God, right? It also says he would dress up in the blood or dress up in the skins of it and make himself a sacrifice for their God. We're told to make ourselves a living sacrifice for God, right? In Romans. But he was sacrificing, he was doing it, you know. He was into worshiping that bull god, a buffalo god, and he did it enough to know that God was not blessing him in the house. Joseph was. And so he promoted Joseph. Because Joseph knew how to figure things out. And he sent Joseph to jail, and of course things started to fall apart. And when famine came, it was even worse. Because people keep taking the blessing and calling it a burden. The brothers called it a burden. Potiphar called it a burden. Potiphar listened to Potiphar. You cannot tell me that he did not know that his wife was a liar. Potiphar listened to Potiphar and threw Joseph in prison. And Joseph ends up marrying Potiphar. He marries Pharaoh's wife. That's right. He marries what's his name? Potiphar's daughter. Pharaoh put a ring on Joseph and changed his identity. No, you're not from Hebrews. You're not from Israelite. You're not from those people. You're from me. You're not from that God. You're from me. He changed his name. How many of us do it? We let people, right? I said, I ain't marrying nobody. I ain't trying to, and then you're not trying to witness to nobody. What you're trying to do is get in the bed with them. I'm not trying to witness to nobody. I'm not trying to make nobody over. I'm not trying to change anybody. I'm with God. I'm with the bridegroom. I'm with God. If I don't see marriage, so be it. I'm okay with it. Because I got God. I love the people of God. And if someone comes my way, they have to be sent by God. And if they're sent by God, right? I don't have to test them and say, okay, say this, say that. No, I'm not trying to change anybody. I want to hear what you have to say because we want to know what you really think. Because I cannot submit what you're asking yourself to do, women, right? Because you want to marry that person because you want to have sex with them, right? But here's the thing: when you marry them, what you're telling yourself to do, right, is to submit to somebody that does not believe like you. How do I submit to a Muslim? When we look at situations, he's supposed to, if I'm submitted to me, then he wraps his arms around me, right? I'm his rib. So when we look at situations, when we put situations out before us, if I'm submitted to you, then you tell us where to go. You say what's right and what's wrong about the situation. We both have this platter, right? That we put things on to judge everything by. How do we do it if I'm submitted to a Muslim? We can't judge anything unless we have the same basis, unless we walk with the same basis. How do I marry? How do I marry as an Israelite? How do I marry an I now have sons, right? An Israelite, an How do I then marry her? Joseph was Israelite and How does he marry her? Now he's Israelite, and Egyptian. No, his union is. Don't think about who you are, think about what your union becomes if you marry them. This is not a nationality thing, but this is the belief thing, right? I don't want to know what the color you are. I want to know what you believe. How do I marry you if you don't believe like I do? I can't submit to you. Because anytime we have an issue, we should go to God and ask him about it. Go to God, right? But what happens when I'm going to God and you going to Buddha, Muhammad? I'm going to God and you're going to Buddha. We are going to get two different answers. How do we figure anything out? Just like Joseph, just like Isaac, we're going to be stuck in and I'm out.